Hello and welcome to 591 Lab. I am Jackton and I'm thrilled to have you here today as we dive into the exciting world of Microsoft Azure. In this video, we're going to focus on AZ-140 certification exam preparation questions, which is all about the design and implementation of virtualization solutions on Azure. If you're looking to elevate your skills in cloud technology, understand how to optimize and manage virtualization infrastructure, and ultimately achieve the AZ-140 certification, you are in the right place. Whether you are an IT professional, a system administrator, or someone passionate about cloud computing, this training is designed to provide you with the knowledge and insights needed to excel in your Azure journey. We'll cover key concepts, best practices, and hands-on demonstrations within these particular questions to ensure you not only grasp the theoretical aspects but also gain practical experience. So buckle up and get ready for an immersive learning experience that will empower you to confidently tackle the AZ-140 exam questions. Before we begin, just a humble request, just make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up if you're ready to embark on this Azure adventure with us. First and foremost, who are we? We are 591 Lab, and our site is 591lab.com, pronounced as 591 Lab. 591 Lab is the top IT training and certification exam brand in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Singapore. Our mission at 591 Lab is to provide our clients with exceptional exam preparation experience for certifications in Cisco, Huawei, Aruba, Juniper, Microsoft, and Azure certification tracks. So without further ado, let's jump into the world of AZ-140 and explore the ins and outs of the Azure virtual desktop. So the agenda for the review questions today will revolve around the following. 1. Plan and implement an Azure virtual desktop infrastructure. Plan and implement identity and security. And then lastly, plan and implement user environments and applications. So let's begin with the first question. The first question reads, you have an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, tenant name contoso.com, and an Azure virtual network named VNet1. To VNet1, you deploy an Azure Active Directory domain services, Azure ADDS, managed domain named litwareinc.com. To VNet1, you plan to deploy Azure Virtual Desktop host pool named Uluad. You need to ensure that you can deploy Windows 10 Enterprise Session hosts to Pool 1. What should you do first? A. Modify the settings of the litware.com DNS zone. B. Modify the DNS settings of VNet1. C. Add a custom domain name to contoso.com. Implement Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync. So before we get the right answer, let me explain about the Azure AD in relation to Azure ADDS and also how that will help us implement our session host in this regard for the Windows 10 Enterprise. So I'll jump right into my Microsoft whiteboard that I can showcase to you how the connection works. So here we go. Azure Virtual Desktop, how it is set up is you have your session host. Azure Virtual Desktop provides that virtualization aspect for your workloads so that you can get to access this particular workload directly from the cloud. So essentially, when you have, so I'll draw a similar of a box here. Then so this is on the Azure side. This is Azure. So on this particular end, you'll find that on Azure you have your virtual network, let's say VNet 1 in this regard. So inside VNet 1, you have your what we call the session hosts. Session hosts. So these session hosts, you want them to connect. So the way we usually connect to make sure the authorization happens for this session host is that we connect this session host to ensure these session hosts are either directly domain joined through Microsoft Entra ID, Microsoft Entra ID, that is the initially Azure AD. So having these session hosts directly connect to Azure AD, join them to Azure AD, or you can join them to the Active Directory that sits on the on-premises side. Active Directory sitting on the on-premises side. So when you have when the connection is through a Microsoft Entra ID or Azure AD, much of the configuration has already been done for you by Microsoft. So essentially now if at all you have your ADDS services, you want to include your Azure ADDS, Azure Active Directory domain services, that means you will need to redirect traffic. That is, you need to make sure that the session hosts can be able to resolve to the Azure ADDS. So how you do that is you ensure on the VNet you configure the DNS to the IP of the Azure ADDS. So Azure ADDS, Azure AD domain services. So you put the IP of the Azure AD domain services on the VNet so that when this session host needs to resolve it's through FQDN, it's resolved to the Azure ADDS here, because already the VNet, you place the IP of the Azure ADDS on the DNS section. I'll jump to the portal and then I'll showcase to you. So let's say I have a VNet, a virtual network. So let me go to a resource group, then go to a particular, okay, and then I go to let's say a VNet here. So when I go to a VNet, so you can see when I go, I can choose what DNS servers that I need to be authorized. So when I say custom, I'll put the DNS, the IP address of my Azure ADDS server, so that when my session host wants to authorize, or for example, when they want to do domain, for example, domain join, they'll reference these Azure ADDS through the IP that I've indicated here on this Azure on the VNet side. So reverting back to the question, the question was asking you need to ensure that you can deploy Windows 10 Enterprise Session Host to pool 1. So this pool 1 is sitting on this VNet 1. So if it is sitting on this VNet 1, this VNet 1 needs to do a domain, the managed domain. It needs to authorization needs to happen, in that it needs to resolve its domain name or do a domain join by refreshing or by having line of sight to the Azure Active Directory domain services. So the best way here for them to have a line of sight to the Azure Active Directory domain services is you implementing the IP address of the Azure Active Directory domain services on this on the DNS section of VNet 1. So the answer here will be modify the DNS settings of VNet 1 as we've seen. So question 2, you have an Azure virtual desktop host pool named pool 1 that contains the following: a linked workspace named workspace 1, an application group named default desktop, a session host named host 1. You need to add a new data disk. What should you modify? So in our question, you have a workspace, you have an application group, and you have a session host, but you need to add a new data disk. Where should you add it? So I'll go to, before we get to know the answer, I'll go to the whiteboard and explain what that means. So here we have when you are implementing Azure Virtual Desktop, the important components are usually host pools, application groups, and workspace. So when you have a workspace, these users usually subscribe to a workspace. I'll show you that on the portal. Usually subscribe on the workspace. When they subscribe on the workspace, they'll only get to view what they've been assigned in terms of the application group. So on the application groups, the users will only be able to see what they've been assigned. So in the application group, you can have the desktop, or you can have the remote app. And then, so when it is a desktop, this is where the users got full access to the session host. And this session host is the same as just a virtual machine. So this virtual machine has got a RAM, has got disks, has got cores or what we call vCPUs. So if you want to modify disks, for example, what you'll get to modify here is the session host. This is what you'll be modifying. You'll modify session host because you'll modify the component of the disk of the virtual machine session host that you've implemented here. So this virtual machine is usually multi-session. When we say multi-session, that means many users can log in, more than one user can log in to that session, to that virtual machine. So let's go to the Azure portal, then see. So when I go to I'll go to Azure Virtual Desktop. I show you. So on the Azure Virtual Desktop, you'll see if I go to host pools, this is my host pool, and then inside my host pool, I can go to, you can see I have a machine, so my host pool. This virtual machine is this is the session host. So this session host definitely has got specs in regards to the vCPUs. It has got the disk. So generally, you can log in and modify the disks that are inside this particular virtual machine. So in addition to the host pools, we also have what we call application groups. So application groups, as I was saying, it's divided into where you have the desktop, where you have the desktop full access to the virtual machine itself, and also the remote application, where you only have access to the applications that you want to access. And then on top of that, now session host I've mentioned. On top of that, you have the workspaces that you get to subscribe to. So these workspaces, so you can see these workspaces is where this is where you will get to subscribe as a user and get the resources that have been mounted or that are being provided on the workspace level. So if you see workspace, what you usually attach to the workspace is usually the application group. So you can see our remote app and desktop app is attached to the workspace. So as for the assignment provided on these particular application groups, you'll get access to the workspace by default. Okay, let's proceed to the next question. But before we proceed to the next question, let's get the answer of our question 2. So you need to add a new data disk. So as mentioned, disk, if you want to modify a disk or add a new disk, you need to do it on the session host. In this regard, our session host is called host 1. So the answer here is A. Thank you. I'll proceed to question 3. This question is part of a series of questions that present the same scenario. Each question in the series contains a unique solution that might meet the stated goals. Some question sets might have more than one correct solution, while others might not have a correct solution. So this set of questions needs you to really think through how the Azure Virtual Desktop or what they're trying to present for you. So in this regard, let me dive right into the question, and then from our knowledge of AVD, try to dissect what the question needs. You have an Azure Virtual Desktop host pool that contains 5 session hosts. The session hosts run Windows 10 Enterprise multi-session. You need to prevent users from accessing the internet from Azure Virtual Desktop sessions. The session hosts must be allowed to access all the required Microsoft services. So, suggested solution here is you configure the address space settings of the virtual network that contains the session hosts. As per your reasoning on the question on the working of the AVD, does this meet the goal? Yes or no? Before we answer this question, so let's try to dissect what the question entails. So we have our host pool, and it has, our host pool has 5 session hosts. These session hosts are running Windows 10 Enterprise multi-session. So, and then we need to prevent users from accessing the internet from Azure Virtual Desktop. So what we'll do here is let's jump to the Azure Virtual Desktop. So here's Azure. So the Azure Virtual Desktop. So we have our host pools. So inside our host pools, we have our application groups, and then inside the application group we have our test host pool. So I'll go to our test host pool, and then if you see, let me take you back to where the session hosts are. So I'll take you back. So take you back here, host pool. Then there is the session hosts. So we want to prevent internet access for these session hosts. So these session hosts are being guided through their provision within a virtual network. So when these session hosts are existing within a virtual network, the same way you have users' machines that are existing on the on-premises network. If you don't want those users to access internet, usually apply firewall rules. So the question is, how do you get to apply those similar firewall rules, for example, or have a replica of the same on Azure AVD side? So for this, because you've already known that this virtual machine or session host sits within a virtual network, we'll have to go to the virtual network section where this virtual machine is sitting, and then check the network security group. Network security group will act as a firewall for the subnet or the virtual machine in its entirety. So when I navigate to the virtual network where this session host sits, I'll do that. I'll go to the let me go back to the resource groups. So this virtual is sitting on this resource group. The virtual network is this one. So when I go there, so I can get to implement the NSG network security groups directly from these for the subnets where this virtual machine is sitting. But in this regard, I just want to block traffic for this specific session host. So as I've told you, this session host is a virtual machine. I'll search for a virtual machine and check virtual machine. So I'll go to my virtual machine, and as we know, if we want to protect the virtual machine itself, prevent it from accessing the internet, then we'll have to attach the NSG network security group on its NIC, the virtual network interface card for this particular virtual machine. So that is why when we come here, we go to the NIC. I'll go there, go to the NIC. So let's say I'll go to the NIC, and so that we can modify. So rather than checking the NIC, so let me just check for you network security, because that is what we need to modify. Network security groups. Network security groups. So when I create a network security group, I'll create one. Test NSG. Test NSG. Then review and create. So after this NSG has been created, I can modify how the rules that are provided within this NSG, and then I attach it directly on the NIC of this virtual machine, or attach it to the subnet where this virtual machine sits. So if I attach it to the subnet, it will get to block traffic to the internet for all the virtual machines that will be sitting within that particular subnet. But when I get to attach it on that particular session host, it will only be affecting that single virtual machine in terms of accessibility to the internet. So when I go back to the question, so you can see here, before we go back to the question, you can see the NSG here. It has got rules, so I can define the rules. If I don't want access to the internet, I can just define those particular rules here, and then attach these NSG to the virtual network, to the subnet where the VM exists, or attach it directly on the virtual network interface card of that particular virtual machine. So let's revert back to the question. Then we'll go back to the question by saying you need to prevent users from accessing the internet from Azure Virtual Desktop sessions. So the solution they are providing here is they're saying you configure the address space settings of the virtual network that contains the session host. This one won't cut it. This is a no. It's a no. You can't. Configuring the address space won't be able to resolve, make you deny this virtual machine not to access the internet, because this is a security, and it needs to, and security is being addressed by NSG within Azure. So let's get to the fourth question. That's when you know the importance of the NSG in regards to this particular question. So question 4 is saying this is the same question that we had initially. You have Azure Virtual Desktop Host Pool that contains 5 session hosts. The session host run Windows 10 Enterprise Multi-Session. You need to prevent users from accessing the internet from Azure Virtual Desktop sessions. The session hosts must be allowed to access all the required Microsoft services. Solution here, they are providing you configure rules in the network security group linked to the subnet of the session. This is perfectly clear. This is the perfect answer, as I've demonstrated, that you need to attach the NSG, network security group, to the subnet, and then as a result of you attaching the NSG to the subnet, you will essentially have applied that security rule in that all the virtual machines that or all the session hosts that exist within that particular subnet will not be able to access the internet as per the rules, the rule policies that have been set within that particular NSG. So the answer here is, does this meet the goal? Correct. This solution that has been provided meets the goal. So that's the correct answer. Yes. Question 5. Your company has 60,000 users. You plan to deploy Azure Virtual Desktop. You need to recommend a storage solution for the FS Logix profile containers. The solution must provide the highest possible IOPS, input-output operations, and the lowest latency desktop experience. What should you recommend? So we have quite a number of users here, 60,000, and we need to recommend a storage solution for the FS Logix profile. So before we dive into the right answer here, let's see what are the choices provided. Choice A, Azure Data Lake Storage. Choice B, Azure NetApp Files. Choice C, Azure Blob Storage Premium. D, Azure Files Standard. So the Lake Storage can be used to store data and even documents, large documents that you do have that cannot fit within a blob storage, for example. So let me get to the Azure Microsoft whiteboard. So on our whiteboard here, we have 60,000 users, and you want to store their profiles for all these users. Within AVD, the way we store storage profiles is usually using FS Logix app. So the way FX Logix app work or FS Logix profile work, the FX Logix will ensure that the user profiles roam. User profiles roam. So they are not fixed within or static within a particular session host. So if, for example, when a user logs in, when you implement FS Logix, when a user logs into session host A, the first login, the second login, when he logs in, he, for example, he gets directed to session B, to session host B. The profiles of this user session that has been saved here will move with this particular user to wherever he goes. If he goes here, so that session will be transferred to wherever that person, the user, logs into. So that is the benefit of FS Logix app. It makes the user move with their profile. It's not fixed on a particular session host. So the modalities of implementing FS Logix profiles is usually in two forms. One, you can choose to use the Azure File Share, or two, you can use NetApps. So these are the two modalities that you can use to implement Azure File Share. So if you go to the AVD Azure to support Azure Virtual Desktop, Let's navigate to the last question. The last question states, you have an Azure Virtual Desktop deployment that contains the following: a host pool named pool1, 2 session hosts named host1 and host2, an application group named remote app group1 that contains a remote app named app1. You need to prevent users from copying and pasting between app1 and their local device. So let me get to, before we answer this question, let me get to my board here. So the way, when you have a session host, usually log in through RDP to this session host. Log in through RDP. When you log in through RDP, when you are inside this session host, you can have a connection back to the on-prem. So what aids you to have connection back to the on-prem when you are inside this session host, you should call what we call the RDP redirection settings. RDP redirection settings. Or redirection properties. So the RDP redirection properties will make you to choose what needs to, for example, happen. For example, if I need to do printing back on the on-premises from my session host, I can just go to this RDP redirection properties and then set that I need to do printing back on the on-premises side. Or if I don't want to copy and paste, no copy and paste, so I'll just disable that copy and paste from the RDP properties. So let me go to Azure. I show you how that works from the AVD perspective. So if I go to Azure Virtual Desktop and then go to host pools, so I go to the host pool and then I go to RDP properties. So if you go to that RDP properties and then navigate to device redirection. So under device redirection, you can see these are what you can do. So for example, under audio and video, microphone redirection, I can configure that I need to enable capture from the local device when I'm on my session host. So these are some of the properties that you can enable for your RDP properties in terms of device redirection back to the on-premises side. If I don't want to do copy and paste to the on-premises, I can also be able to pin that down here on the keyboard. So for example, the clipboard redirection, this one is for copy and pasting. I can just say I don't want any documents from the session host to be pasted back on the on-premises. The user just needs to use the session host and leave everything on the cloud, on the session host or AVD side as it is. Nothing goes back on the on-premises side. If I want to do printing back to the on-premises, I can set here the printers on the local computers are available in the remote session. Yeah, I can configure that as well. So this is what the importance of having this device redirection. It really comes in handy when, for example, you want to do some sort of printing, you want to avoid copy pasting back on the on-premises. So if you go back, not the question, A says create an app locker policy. This is wrong. Modify the logs of remote app group 1. Wrong. Assign the desktop virtualization reader role for pool 1 to the users. Wrong. Modify the RDP properties of pool 1. Correct. So you'll need to modify the RDP properties as I've mentioned on the Microsoft portal. So that's it with the questions. So when it comes to deployment of Azure Virtual Desktop, just let me know on the comment section if you want a full video in regards to how to implement Azure Virtual Desktop from start to finish. So let me know on the video section, then I will act accordingly as per the comment that will be provided on this particular video. So thank you. As I proceed and conclude on this particular presentation, I want to thank you all for attending today's class at 591 Lab. We hope you find the material informative and helpful. Remember, practice is critical to mastering any new skill, so review the course content and keep practicing with 591 Lab help and support. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact us. We appreciate your participation and look forward to seeing you in our future classes. Have a great day.
Right.